Okay, I hereby call to order the October 24th, 2022 meeting of the Brattleboro Housing Partnership at 4:41. And it is being conducted by Zoom and hybrid if there's anyone at Melrose. So let's review the minutes. I'm sure everybody's reviewed those. Does anybody have any questions about the minutes? If not, I'd like to have a motion that they be approved.
I so move, Byron.
Thank you, Byron. And second?
I second Alicia Underwood.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Is there any resident and citizen petition?
We just have to, I'm sorry, Liz, we just have to take a vote to make sure that everyone approves the minutes.
I'm sorry. I keep giving that every. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Or hi. Hi. Thank you.
Aye, Byron.
That's unanimous. Great. Thank you. Okay. I don't see any resident or citizen participation. Is there any? And I'm not seeing. Okay. Then let's go to staff reports, executive director's report. That was a great report. Does anybody have any questions about it? Okay. And item B is the property review and property managers report. Were there any questions on that report?
That's the green.
Yeah, the dark green one.
It looks like collections at Edgewood are better than often.
Yes. Oh, I had one question there. There's some of these, the ES508 is listed 4 times. Why is it listed 4 times?
It's the same unit. So basically it just says that someone moved out, then somebody moved in, and we identify how they moved in, other housing. So it's just the way the report fills. There's not 4 units, it's the same unit, but it's 4 different transactions in the system that had to happen.
Gotcha.
So because we had that turnover in one month, it all went through together. They did the move out, move in, move out, turnover, move out. Yeah.
Great.
But other ones like Red Clover, that one had been sitting vacant for a little bit of time. So there was there was a different time where it was a move out. And so that it was just an in-house transfer.
Right. Okay. The SASH flash, there was a couple of pages here of SASH flash. I love the history of the pumpkins. And so that's such a good publication. And so I saw that one is published for SASH for All program, and the other was the SASH program. And as we're moving into all that, anybody have any comments?
Now with the cooking, this is Gary Stroud. The cooking and the lunch was Shauna and Susan. Where's that being held at?
I believe it was Hayes Court.
Okay, it didn't specify where. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It might have been I think that last calendar was just for Hayes Court.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's nice work you're doing with hospice.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. The next item, we didn't get that report in, so we'll have that on probably the next board meeting.
So the annual utility allowances, which go with the fair market rents. So last month we approved the fair market rents. And this month we would be looking at the utility allowances. The way we get the utility allowances is Vermont State Housing approves them for their programs and from for multi-housing. So they haven't been released yet. And so we haven't received those yet. So you'll get them in the next board packet, and those will work with the fair market rents.
Sounds good. Any questions about that? Okay. The financial review, there's the August 22 comparable. It's always a very thorough report. Does anybody have any questions? All right.
I wondered, it's Byron, I wondered why the figures are so low for general maintenance.
Well, we have budgeted for 2 additional staff members, and we have been in the process of hiring. We've hired one, he started last Monday. And so there's still some funds allocated specifically to that. I think we also overestimated a little bit the amount of overtime we would have. We've seen a lot less overtime in the last few months. So I think that was another piece. So I think we budgeted high for that position, not knowing, if we were going to need to bring on additional staff or with the planning that we would be bringing on additional staff, and depending on what the hourly rate would be, that we wanted to budget high.
I guess I just was surprised that you can operate on that little money.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I will say that operationally, we had built in that we could potentially change, up salaries. And so we recently, as part of the hiring process, I had reviewed salaries from different organizations, including around Windham County and around other counties that mirror Windham County. And we did increase salary for maintenance. We increased, depending on the position, between $1 and $2 an hour. So I think that we'll see that change. That's starting as effective this month.
Backing up to item 4, number C in the SASH flash, I didn't say, but I assumed that everybody, if you had any questions about the Wellness and Services Monthly Report, that you would speak up. But does anybody have any questions about that report? I just was verbalizing the SASH flash. Okay, very good. The September 22nd check listing. Does anybody have any questions about the checks that have been written? All right. Check signing assignments. Now, I don't see here noted who has November.
So we hadn't decided because we needed to get Patricia and Gary signed up to be signers, and they did. We had them signed up the last in about a week ago, but we didn't want to change October because we were already underway. So I didn't want to complicate it. So I don't know if Patricia wants to take on November, and then Gary could maybe do December, because I know Gary can't do some weeks in November.
And I'll talk to you
Okay.
on how you do it. Second.
Great.
Okay. Yeah.
Understand that if anybody has a last minute emergency, I am glad to be called to back up, because I'm totally available those 2 months. So, if something happens and you can't make it, just let me know.
So it requires, if possible, for commissioners to come to Melrose Terrace on Fridays, every Friday of the month, to sign checks.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a possibility, Pat.
Okay, that I could do. I just didn't know how to go about it. That's all.
Yeah, so it'll
I
be
know.
Fridays. And once I know who it is, then Billy Joe Ricky, who's our account administrator, she'll reach out to you to make sure that a time works for you. And then
Okay.
when the first time you come, I'll review it with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. That's how, being a new kid on the block,
Yeah.
okay, now, yeah.
Gary, is that okay with you for December?
Absolutely. I like the holidays.
Great, okay, great. All right. The next item on our list is health insurance increases and discuss. What are your recommendations, Christine?
So I tried to print this out, it's really tiny, so I apologize. So basically so for those of you who were on the board last year, or for those of you who monitor health insurance rates, last year, many of our programs were level funded. There was not an increase. And so Brattleboro Housing Partnerships had decided, because we had over budgeted the previous fiscal year, and we had some room, we decided to pay 95% of the coverage for staff and of the gold plan, and then those staff pick up the 5% difference. And so we did this for all the plans. And the reason we did this was because we knew that we were starting to see that inflation was rising. We also saw that many of our staff had stayed on for a significant amount of time. And we also felt that because our staff deals with, it's a high stress job in every position, dealing with pretty stressful situations at our property sites on a daily basis, that we really wanted to make sure that staff had adequate health insurance and that they could afford to go to the doctor. Also, part of our program, we have an employee assistance program that staff can access. And we also made it so that every staff member could receive dental insurance for themselves. If they added their family members, then they would pay for their family members. And so now with the increase, I went over the increase with James, our fee accountant, and because it is really concerning that it went up 20%, that's a drastic increase. So no matter what, if we decided to keep our health insurance at 95% covered, the staff would still, their 5% would still increase. However, BHP would really take the brunt of that increase. And speaking with James, we definitely have the ability for this fiscal year to carry until April, and then as well as for the next fiscal year. However, to carry that increase. However, when we look at the fiscal year for 2024, so our fiscal year starts April 1st. So it's a little confusing because the health insurance is from January to December. So when we do this, we have to plan with this idea that we would potentially have some sort of an increase. We did create a buffer. So if you look at our comparable, we're about $10,000 under what we had budgeted, with the understanding that this would probably go up significantly, or it would go up at some point. And so based on what James said, and we don't have to vote on this today, we could vote on it in the next meeting and I could bring more data. But in reviewing the initial data, Brattleboro Housing Partnerships can carry the increase. However, when we look at fiscal year 24, which will be April, which we'll be planning in the middle of winter for 2024, that would be the time that we would really need to assess. And hopefully at that time, it wouldn't increase again in the winter of 2023. I think that it would be hard. I think it would be hard for our staff for many people in our staff to take on the burden of the extra cost if we don't, if we don't decide to raise their salaries too. So it's sort of a catch-22.
This Byron, I'm just not sure about the two papers that I'm looking at.
Sure. So the first paper that is smaller and it's colored.
Yes.
That is the MVP plans for the year. So those are the MVP plans of the years those are the plans that we look at for our employees. The Blue Cross Blue Shield is more expensive. So we have traditionally only offered the MVP, which we offered last year. So that shows all of the plans. Brattleboro Housing Partnerships offers the gold plan, which is the first column.
Gold 2.
Yeah, which is the first column, and they offer that at 95% coverage, and we pay the 5%. The second sheet, which is the large sheet, is the comparable from last year, 2022 to 2021. 2023. So there have been some changes as well in out-of-pocket expenses. So not only do the premiums go up 20%, but some of the out-of-pocket expenses have also increased. So that shows you the differences for the year.
Is Brattleboro Housing Partnership going to be able to give pay raises that would cover this increase, or most of it?
So I think that we would, so I think those numbers, I haven't talked to James about pay increases. That's something we usually do annually as of when the fiscal year starts. That's part of the budgeting process. So unless there's like a change of position, or like the maintenance team, which we obviously had them covering for a few open positions, that we could increase their salary. We normally don't increase salaries unless it's right on the fiscal year and it's part of the budget. So for right now, and speaking with James, his recommendation was that we continue to pay the 95%, even though the staff will have an increase in what they pay. It won't be as significant as if we changed it to like 90%.
Well, I would certainly be supportive of the 95%. And everybody knows health insurance goes up every year.
Mm-hmm.
And then at least they know that Brattleboro Housing Partnership is consistent in their support.
I also think that we hired, so we've been in the process of hiring staff. So we recently onboarded a new maintenance person. We onboarded we have 2 new SASH coordinators that one started, one is starting at the end of the month. We had a new administrative assistant who started. We also brought on so as we're hiring people, part of the lure of working for us, not only that we are a great organization with an amazing team that's very supportive, but we also offer these benefits, which I think in comparison to what I've seen in other organizations, they may pay a little more, but they don't offer the packages that we offer. And I have always felt that it serves the organization to offer better benefits, because the better people take care of themselves, the less likely they are to miss work, or the less likely they are, to need to take more time off.
Right.
My working as a supervisor, you get X amount an hour for your pay, but you have to figure out the benefits that go with it.
Mm-hmm.
So the benefits are, especially insurance, is a big part of it. So you might get X amount an hour, but you figure your vacation time and all your benefits you get works into that X amount an hour, and people don't know that. Mm-hmm. They don't figure that that's part of it. They figure I get X amount an hour, and that's it, and they don't look into the big picture.
Right. Do you need a vote on this today?
So I just wanted to ask a quick question. I'm sorry, Gary Stroud.
Go ahead.
With this plan, I'm not an expert myself, but I'm dealing with my own insurance company, trying to figure out which is the best for me. With this in-network and out-of-network, is that basically part of, I see gold, silver, bronze. And with that being said, is this one standard plan basically? So it doesn't have to deal with in-network and out-of-network, because it all depends on if your doctor's in-network or out-of-network. Will that still affect their plan cost relatively to what's being offered, even if they get the 95%? Will that go up or be more deducted from their pay? Or I'm just trying to get an idea, because I know also when the cost of living goes up next year, that's going to reflect also on the cost of your insurance.
So I think so let me make sure I have your question. So I think you were asking how this plan, the different types of plans are allocated. So I'll answer that first. So these are the Vermont exchange plan, right? So we pick from the 2 Vermont exchange plans that are approved by the Vermont, the care board, or, the state board that approves the plans. So,
Right.
So the gold plan, so there's a plan, there's the platinum plan, which is above the gold plan. And then there's the gold plan, which is next. And so we've traditionally paid for that gold plan. And in terms of out-of-pocket expenses for out-of-network, I think most of, I don't know exactly how many things are out of network, but from my experience with the gold plan, because it's approved by the Vermont board, it tends to be that most items are covered within that plan if you're receiving care within Vermont or at Dartmouth Hitchcock or one of the associated hospitals connected to this area. I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh, no, it does, Christine, because having certain plans, you have to find out what areas you're covered in, what doctors will accept, when you're dealing with a lot of different, especially with dental and eyewear. So that's the biggest things. Most doctors are in network, or you'll know by asking them, and they can find out. But I just want to know if that's going to be an extra cost out of pocket, if they're out of network. Because I usually look at in network, out of network, because with the insurance I have, like United Healthcare, it's different than MVP.
Yeah. And I can't speak to it 100%, but from my experience with working with MVP, most people who I've never heard anyone complaining to me, we talk about this among staff every year. I never had anybody complain and say that their services weren't covered because they were out of network.
Right.
And this doesn't cover dental. So the dental is separate in the Delta dental plan, and that isn't part of this plan, but in that plan is level funded. It hasn't increased dramatically. So if we continue to pay for each employee to have that dental plan, that would not be a significant increase. This medical plan, though, was the one that had the increase. We also offer vision, but staff can identify whether they want the vision or not, and they pay that themselves, and that's not as expensive. It's less expensive.
And who is their vision under? Is that under?
It's under VSP.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't have to vote on this today. I just wanted to give the board food for thought about this. I would like to have the board vote on it at the annual meeting, if possible. And that way we can, I can break it down a little bit more so that you'd have a better understanding of how much extra it will be towards the budget. And then also how much extra, break down all the costs for all the different programs for you. And I can offer that to you on 14th, and we can, because we'll have a small board meeting during the annual meeting. So that would be a time, and we can, if you wanted to discuss it in an executive session, we could do that as well. But I don't think we would have to. I think it would be.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just didn't want you to be blindsided in November.
Thank you. Well, tell us the details about our annual meeting.
So the annual meeting is the 14th, and we decided to have it at Hayes Court in West Brattleboro and at the community room. It will be at noon in person, and it is the 60th anniversary. So that's the theme of the event, is celebrating the anniversary. We've wanted to have the support services talk a little bit about the new supportive services that are being offered at our property site and how those programs have grown in the past year. And so that will be the majority of the theme. And then we would also have, talk a little bit about the history of BHP, where we've been and where we're going. I think it's a nice opportunity to talk a little bit about set the foundation for Melrose Terrace to talk a little bit about all the work that's been done on the Melrose Terrace floodplain, and then start the conversation about what, we'd like to see going forward in the future for Melrose.
Sounds good.
And some good news about that. So HUD has continued to give us some operating fund money and capital fund money for Melrose Terrace, even though we don't currently house anyone here. So we'll be able to use those funds. We have to use them specifically for Melrose Terrace. So we'll be able to use them for the pre-development costs, which I think will be, which is going to save us a lot of time and energy. We don't have to raise that money anymore. Now we can utilize that fund. So that's really great news. So we can start that process sooner than we had hoped.
That's awesome news, Kristen.
Very good. Very good. Okay, any other details about the annual meeting? Are you ready to move on? Okay,
I'll send you information as it gets closer.
sounds
We'll be
good.
sending out invitations. Yeah.
Okay. Item B, you have in your packets, one is the Commissioner Brattleboro Housing Partnerships, a DBA Housing Authority. And this is a description of what we do. Now, I'd like to bring up the process a little bit. The select board is the group that actually chooses out of applicants who is to be interviewed and brought on to the board when there's an opening. If somebody, their life circumstances change, they submit their resignation, the Brattleboro Housing Partnership, the select board posts that information. And this is the information that we want to share with the public of, what do we do? And so I just wanted to have you all take a look at this. And this has been an approved statement of what we do. I wanted you to review it, and we don't have to do all the work today, but I just wanted you to have an opportunity to say, okay, I have a suggestion about this, and we can, then email Christine your suggestion about anything you would like to change or clarify. So, sometimes if you know you're going to step down, you might want to share information about what we do. This is the piece of paper you would give people. This is a correct information, and you don't want to just put together an attitude. You want to give something that's been approved by this commission. So I just want everybody to review this, and we can certainly bring that on another agenda to finalize that this is, if we want to update it in any way and put any new suggestions in, but this is the piece of paper from the email that with an attachment you send to somebody if you wanted them to then go online and make application if there was an opening. Does that make sense? Okay. We also have an onboarding process. Byron and I and Christine got together a number of months ago to put together an onboarding process, which is a work in progress. And Pat, you and Gary have been the benefactors of what we've put together. And we look forward to getting your feedback at the end of this process about what you learn, what you would have liked to learn, so that we can improve it along the way. And we haven't finished getting all the information to you, but we'd like to have this as along the way, have the board approve what we're doing. So anyway, this is an invitation to participate in bringing this up to date if you want to make any changes. Do we have any questions about this? Okay.
This is Byron. I have a question. I thought that back when the orientation committee came up with their proposal that the board had approved that. Had they not?
We had, but we have new members of the board, and I'm just bringing up the opportunity for everybody to take a look at what we've done and update it if they make suggestions if they choose to. And then we can reconfirm what we've got. Yes, we like what we have. But I think it's important that this be reviewed periodically.
But
So this information, should we send it to you, Elizabeth, or to Christine, or to all three CC, or?
If you have any suggestions or questions about it, please send them to Christine.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings up another thing. Anytime, our homework, whenever we get a board packet, is to absolutely read every page thoroughly and make our questions. And in order to, and y'all are doing a great job of keeping things on track today, especially. But if you have some questions, email Christine so that she can have those answers ready for us. And that reduces the time investment of the meeting time, because we want to be respectful of staying within the hour and stuff. So please always, if you have a question about anything in the board packet, just shoot Christine a question and she'll address that at the meeting.
Absolutely.
Does that sound like a good plan? And so does anybody have any questions about my goal here? I just want you to review this stuff, make sure you're satisfied with it. Let us know that you're satisfied with it. Or if you have a suggestion or recommendation, please let us know. But this is the information we would give out to people if we're going to say, and it's also very important when the when the select board advertises a position, they advertise all over the place, because we want to make sure that people from all walks of life, from all economic backgrounds, we want a variety of opinions and availability for everybody in the community to have the opportunity to make application to be on our board. So, but we also want to have the consistent information of what we do. So I just wanted to put that out there so we're all on the same page. Any questions?
I like that, how equal, how equitable, how inclusive
Yeah.
BHP is, and open to anyone to come in, and
Absolutely.
how Christine always has that open door policy as well too. You could always notify via email if any suggestions. But I think even with the people who are basically seasoned people that are on here that's done this for a while, if possible, permissible, go to them. And sometimes I think in the beginnings that having a formal meeting, either Zoom with this one individual versus, like you said, taking up time on here to get the person up to speed so they can just be transitioned right in and inserted into the group and have a better idea and purview. So it's not taking too much of Christine's time as well too, because sometimes I have to call, what does this mean? So it kind of helps too. It takes that burden off of Christine as well.
Well, our onboarding
that's
process,
one of the reasons. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, my apologies. Go ahead, Byron.
That's one of the reasons that the plan, the orientation plan, I think was approved, included mentoring.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Everybody. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we haven't finished our onboarding process with our new board members, so I think in the long run, everything that's on the list is going to be covered. Yeah, you betcha. So, questions, or any suggestions, or any comments about this at this point?
Well,
I guess I like the idea.
Good, super.
My only question is, if we're to be looking further at our orientation system, shouldn't we be looking at what's on the books already?
Well,
that was approved as a result of the committee's work.
right. My understanding from what you're asking is that not everything that's on the list has been accomplished yet. And I think and we haven't finished orienting our new board members. So I think it's all going to come out in the wash. It just may not have done so in the order we planned. Am I correct, Christine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, so everything that's on the process, so Byron, you're correct. So one thing that was left off was the mentorship. So everybody is supposed to be assigned a mentor. So the board, it had been approved that the board would, that applicants would apply through the town, which is the current rule, that the town would post the positions, that we would circulate that information widely, staff, board members, we would also put it on, would send that information out to people that they thought would potentially be good applicants. We'd also post it on our website, we would post it on our Facebook, and we'd send it through the social service email that goes off around the county. And then it would also be in the newspaper, and it would be on our website, so that it was posted in enough places and it was shared by the board once we knew that there was a vacancy available, once that had been announced. Then once people applied, the board chair and the executive director would meet with the applicants for a briefing. After the briefing, if there were multiple applicants for the same position, the board chair would make a recommendation to the select board based on that briefing. After that, the select board would vote, and they would assign the roles based on who they felt the best applicant was. And they assured us that they would take our recommendations into consideration. If the select board met with applicants specifically to interview them, they asked that the ED or the board chair would be present. And we said that we would do that. Once the applicant is assigned, then they begin the process of onboarding. And then they start beginning to get the onboarding materials, which are in addition to the briefing packet. Some of them are the same, some of them are in addition. And so during that onboarding process, it's broken up into 3 sessions. And then the only thing that wasn't on this list was that we would have the mentorship. So I apologize for that. I had cut and pasted it from my notes, but I just made it so that it looked a little bit nicer, and I forgot to put that piece in. So you're right, Byron, we need to add that to the bottom of the process. So that's the final part of the process, that they would be assigned a mentor for a certain number of months to have somebody to rely on that had already been a seasoned board member. Does that sound accurate, Byron?
Yes, my only question had been that the onboarding process that described in what you sent out was different from what the board had earlier approved. A little more tedious, for one thing, in terms of number of different sessions. But I don't know. Are we being asked to review the process that was originally proposed, or to review what you've proposed here?
So Byron, I'd have to look back in the notes, but I don't think that this is real. I think this is almost exactly the same as what the board approved, outside of the fact that I left off the mentorship.
We're covering all the information that was approved. It may not be in the order that was stated, but it's all there.
Okay.
And I like the idea of mentorship. I was sequestered at one point to be on the board down at the co-op, and it's pretty similar to the way you guys have this structured. Before being on the board, you're interviewed after you put your application in to get an understanding of what it is that the board is looking for, what they do. That pretty much sees if you still have interest in pursuing it, taking it from there. Yeah. And then there's that ongoing education that's given too, when time permits. I mean, a lot of people have situations and things going on in their life when that time comes, that you can hook up with someone and, ask those burning questions of the ages that you might have on some information on the paperwork that's given to us. And that kind of helps the newbies when they start out, and it's really helpful. It helped me out a lot too, learning a lot.
Yeah.
And listening.
Well, my picture of mentoring was after the onboarding meetings, then to assign mentors, because then that everybody would have at least had that basic information. So we'll get there. We'll get there. So are we ready to move on? Okay. The open meeting law, next year's meeting schedule.
So I wanted to hear from the board as I start to put together the schedule for next year. I wanted to make sure that people wanted to keep it to the fourth Monday of the month at 4:30. And unless there was some sort of holiday or, like our annual meeting is always going to be different because of Thanksgiving. And so there's a couple of months that are a little bit odd, but I was hoping to get that schedule together. So I just wanted to make sure, that we wanted to keep it to 4:30, but also I wanted to review with you. I did research the open meeting law, and I did reach out to the department. I can't think of what it is, that oversees the open meeting law. And they said that we could continue to have meetings the way we have them now in the winter, anytime we want, we could have it, as long as we warn the meeting and as long as there is a place here, if somebody needed to come to to participate in part of the open meeting, then as long as we did that, then we could continue to have it over Zoom. I know that ultimately we'd like to have it at the housing sites, and I agree with you on that. However, there were some real concerns about the winter months because it's so dark, because we tend to always have to cancel at least one, which can be really disruptive. And so Liz had talked about the idea of potentially having December, January, February, and March all over Zoom with a location here in case people needed to come, and then have the in-person meetings starting in April. And so that would still qualify under the open meeting law as an open meeting.
So that being said, Christine, that's still be following Robert's rules as well, too, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the open meeting law is a little, and I don't know the difference of that. I only know the open meeting law rules. Okay.
Yeah, because there are different rules with Roberts, and then there's OML, then there's Dillon's rules. So I think getting educated with.
Yeah, we follow the open meeting law rules. So okay. I think you might have gotten that information. I sent that to all the board members, I think 2 months ago was the sort of synopsis of what the open meeting laws were.
Right.
Yep.
Great. I'm just grateful that we can do the winter months by Zoom, and have the open access for those who want it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and need it. That's wonderful.
I mean, that being said, nobody ever comes, which I feel like is, I would like to have more interaction with residents, but I do think that if we were going to start going on sites, it probably makes sense to wait until April when we, can do that everybody can do that safely. And we know that the meetings aren't going to get canceled and, right. So I'm happy to do that.
Right. Do we need a vote on this, or is this fine? Just the discussion is okay?
I don't think you need to vote on it at this point. I will send the meeting schedule out for next month, and then you can approve the meeting schedule.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. The BHOI financial statement. So.
I mean, there's really not an update. We haven't met or anything, but this is the statement. We've had 2 deposits in September for the donation of the playground on the one side, and then the next side we had 3 donors One in July and 2 September. So
Great.
Yeah, so no money has gone out, but we have taken some money in, which is good news. And I know Lorelei, Lorelai's been very busy onboarding part of the staff. So I think she is going to be sending an email out. She checked in with me last week. I don't know if our email was down on Friday, so it caused a little bit of havoc. It was totally down all day Friday. So if anybody sent us an email Friday, we did not receive it. Please resend it. And, I know Lorelai's going to be reaching out to you to have a meeting specifically about starting to look for new board members to add the Brattleboro Housing Opportunities Board.
great. Sounds good.
Great. Super.
And we're continuing to apply for additional grants as well. So
Good.
keep you posted.
I'm just curious. This is Brian. Where do we get the money from that's opening balance?
That was
Has that
money
been-
that's been in the opening balance has been in there for some time. BHOI was started over a decade ago, and there had been some initial funds that had been fundraised and just sat in that account. But other than that, there wasn't that money. There was nothing that's been added. It really sat dormant for a long time.
Right.
Well, that's very nice to discover. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Projects in progress. Melrose Terrace flood mitigation. Engineering reports. And,
So the good news is that we will, I don't know if you've got a chance to look at this, the pictures are beautiful. If you come by
Yes.
Melrose Terrace, you will see it looks really lovely. It's really pretty out here. And we have our final walkthrough tomorrow. And then we will have a final survey completed of the property, which will then be submitted to the town. And then Brattleboro Housing Authority will work with the town on a contract to identify who is responsible for the utilities underground.
great.
So we need to, the hope is that they take that over again. We took it over temporarily during the construction. And so the hope is that they will take it over again now that the construction is over, the land will be surveyed, and we will then begin the process of applying for FEMA to make sure that the remaining land is out of the floodway. And then we will go forward with planning for next stages of the property. But it is beautiful. It's a really
Great.
beautiful area.
Good.
Looks pretty.
Yes.
All the animals seem to be coming back, all the birds.
Good. Playground at Ledgewood Heights.
So we're just
Any comments on that?
we're continuing to fundraise. We're hoping to have a substantial amount of money so that we can hopefully bring the community together in late winter, early spring to then have the playground built in spring. So
Good. Good. And the SASH expansion and SASH for all, that looks like it's really coming along.
it has really come along. The SASH for All is really coming along, and our community partners have reviewed the MOUs and gave lots of suggestions. So we now are finalized it, and it's going back out to the partners to sign. The SASH program, we have hired a person for the half panel, which will begin in Bellows Falls, and they will start by starting at Samuel Elliott Apartments, and then they will train part-time for that. And then when they go full-time, they will begin the Bellows Falls panel. So we're going to have them start here first and then transition to the Bellows Falls. And they are a full-time student who's just finishing their degree. And so this is their last semester. And so that's why they're starting half-time to begin with.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Any other business? My gosh, it's 5:30 and we've done it. Congratulations, everybody. That's even with computer issues to start with. That's wonderful. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I so move.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I
We are adjourned. Great. Thank you.